Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Hope everybody is enjoying their beautiful Sunday morning. It is a gorgeous day over here where I am. I am not in the Midwest, so it is not going to rain like a son of a bitch all day. It's very, very nice. It's just going to be a nice, quiet day watching some football. So, I wanted to do an NFL live stream today to answer questions for everybody. If y'all have any questions, I have the NFL projections, as members only, but I don't mind answering questions about who I have where, or explaining why my projections might say certain things. If you have any questions about that, uh, as the inactives come in a half hour, I'll be here and able to discuss that and what all of that's going to mean. I still have not figured out how to get this. I still haven't figured out how to get this to look okay on this little laptop in my living room on my recliner, since I cannot get down the stairs with my disability anymore. So, barring any questions, I guess I'm just gonna go like on a game by game. Talk about what I think about everything. So let us start with the first game, which is the Bengals and the Bills. And I'll just go over, basically what I said in the article and expand on anything else that I was thinking. So basically, I respect the Bills' defense a lot. And I respect the fact that the Bengals are going to try to throw the ball a bunch. Oh, I think I might have a question. Tim Lawrence. Oh, and I have this window not very good. With James White being out, do you see Rex going off or more Sony? So here's the deal with the Patriots. I think that's a really, really great question. As of right now, I have 3 running backs with a 25% exposure. Chris Carson. Who do I have? Chris Carson. Damn, my brain at this point. I'm so tired. Dalvin Cook, and Rex Burkhead. I had Rex Burkhead at 15% yesterday, and with the news that James White went out, I increased that to 25%. And thinking about it, I think that might even be low for a couple of reasons. The first being that the Patriots are projected to win this game handily. And as I've said in the last week especially, if you are the Patriots and it's not like the Jets and the Dolphins are going to give them a run in their division. The Bills are a good team, but they're not Patriots good, right? Let's be realistic here. So the Patriots are basically, going to take these easy wins and save up what they can. No, Rex is good everywhere, and that's what I'm going to get to. He's better the more you get per reception, but he's not a bad play regardless. So anyway, as I was saying, the Patriots are basically going to be playing for the postseason. And that is my cat, J.J. Watt, actually. Appropriately enough for NFL Sunday, J.J. Watt, which actually stands for Johnny Jr., but that's another story for another time. So, again, to get back to the point I was making, the Patriots have no problem coming out hard in the first half, getting the lead, doing what they need to do, keeping everybody fresh. But as the games go on, especially the second half usage, you start to see the backups get more run, when the blowouts happen. And that, this game is projected to be a blowout. Say what you will about the Patriots injuries, but they are still going against an absolutely abysmal quarterback that the Jets have. And I don't think this game's going to be close. So why would you risk the extra injury, to Sony Michel when you don't need to do that? Why would you risk injury to Edelman or Josh Gordon when you really don't need to? So I think that Rex Burkhead was a fantastic play regardless. Then you add the fact that James White's out, and you add the fact that they really don't have a tight end. So if you're looking for that mid-range, short-range dump-off type player, while he doesn't have the height, Rex Burkhead is a fantastic candidate to get a whole bunch of extra receptions, which means extra yards, extra TD chances. It's just Rex Burkhead is in an absolutely fantastic spot today. Everything about the game script, the Patriots having the lead, the personnel being out, White, the tight ends being hobbled, just everything there leads me to absolutely love Burkhead today. So the Kansas City-Baltimore game, I had two questions on that so far. They're asking about fading Kansas City-Baltimore. So I want to make something abundantly clear, and this is something that seems counterintuitive until you really think about it. I know the first time I saw this information a couple years ago, I was taken aback, to say the least. But it's true. When the conditions are rainy with decent winds, if it's bad conditions, it's actually harder for the defense to cover offensive players because the offensive players know where they're going. It's the defense that needs to be able to cut more and do a lot more to get to these guys. So up until, and what I've been saying for people that have asked me on like Flick and Twitter, for example, is generally speaking, unless we're getting to like tropical storm level winds, like if we're getting to like 25, 30 mile an hour sustained winds with flooding rains, I would look to is rain and some wind, but nothing that's going to stop these guys from being able to produce. If you go look at the radar, the rain is supposed to let up around 12 or 12:30 Eastern time, which means that, while there's going to be some rain in the area, the threat of thunderstorms and torrential downpours is significantly less than we may have thought yesterday. If you look at Kevin Roth and the DFS meteorologist, I can't remember his name, Mark something, both of them went over radars this morning and talked about how, if anything, Green Bay looks like it may have the worst weather today, not Kansas City, surprisingly enough. So what I actually think about this game is where I was thinking about, trying to, well, as I've explained in my articles, let me back up a second. As I've explained in my articles, Kansas City and whoever plays Kansas City is going to be a fantastic play, no matter what, right? Like anyone who says you should fade the Chiefs on merit alone doesn't know what they're talking about. Now, if they're talking about game theory, the idea that, anything is possible in football, injuries happen, et cetera, et cetera. So, going under the field for, what's going to be a chalky play every week, that's a different question. Like, can you be under the field for Chiefs Ravens knowing that it's going to be the overwhelming chalk? And I would say absolutely yes. There's 13 games. There's a ton of fantastic options. And you're seeing a lot of concentrated ownership, in the top few plays. So there's a lot of different dudes that you can put just under quarterback, and then figure out the stacks that you want to run with them. But now there is so much worry about Kansas City, Baltimore. This is one of those times where I think I'm going to pivot and actually go over the field, or at least equal what preliminary reports of ownership were going to be for these players. I think that the weather is going to lower ownership for absolutely no reason, just from fear, because people like to take out any uncertainty. But uncertainty doesn't mean that people aren't going to produce. Uncertainty just means that, maybe don't take as much of a chance in cash. But if you're playing GPP, it's not like, Pat Mahomes is going to have any less of a ceiling, or Lamar Jackson, his last couple weeks are invalidated. So what I think is going to wind up happening is, let's say, and I'm trying to remember this correctly, if I remember yesterday morning, quarterback ownership projection had Pat Mahomes at like 23% in first, and Lamar Jackson at like 20 to 21% in second. I can see the picture in my head, so I'm pretty sure that it was close to that. So I think that because of the weather, you can probably subtract 3 or 4% from that. You might see like a 20%, 19-20% Mahomes ownership, and like a 15 to 17% Lamar Jackson ownership, whereas they thought it would be in the lower 20s before this weather situation. But, given the game situation, given the over-under, given the way the offenses have been performing, and given the fact that people are going to be getting off of them, it's a good time for sharper players to, go the way the field is running away from. There's a lot of great plays in that game, and I don't think that the weather is nearly bad enough to push us off any players. And let me be clear, even in Green Bay, I don't think that the weather is going to be bad enough anywhere that we're going to need to, to fade or limit exposure in any way. Pardon me, I need to take a sip. All right. So I've changed my mind. Barring questions, I think an interesting thing to do would be to look at ownership from everything that I've done. Green Bay is supposed to have a lot of really bad rain today. It's supposed to be the worst weather of all the games, like what they were saying about Kansas City. It's going to be, supposedly torrential downpours in that area of the country. If you're playing baseball, beware of the Cubs. It's supposed to be dry enough to get the game in, but it's enough of a risk. Okay, Tim asks, oh yeah, and Zoe, absolutely. I said it from the preseason when I wrote my preview of the Green Bay Packers. They completely overhauled their defense, and they have the potential to be fantastic. And everything that I've seen from the first 2 weeks makes me absolutely love what they're doing. They look even better than I thought they were going to be. No, don't change anything. I am 100% serious. There are no weather concerns out there today that are serious enough that you should lower ownership. Let the field lower ownership, and then you can gain the advantage over them. There is no reason, there is no weather that is going to be bad enough in any stadium that you need to get off of people that you were on, I promise. Excuse me. Now, Tim, your second question, Sammy Watkins or the other two Kansas City receivers. So if you are looking at the specifics, so I'm going to go into oh, damn. That thing moved that to premium. That's unfortunate. Let's see what I can do here. So, excuse me. I know I have it somewhere. So Baltimore, where is it? Baltimore so far has been the 9th best overall defense, but that's because they've been absolutely stellar against the rush. And, they're 11th against the pass, but it's not like they're nearly as good as some of the upper echelon teams. And the reason that they haven't been as good against the pass, if you dig into it more, is because their short range coverage and their slot coverage has been very par on the year so far. So what I would want to do at that point is look and see who from Kansas City has been getting more of the slot work than the others. So if you look, and I think this is going to hold because, Tyreek missed so much of it. As of right now, you have Sammy Watkins has run 69% of his, 69% of Sammy Watkins' routes have come from the slot. Again, 23% have come from the right, 8% have come from the left. McCole Hardman, 52% of his routes have come from the slot, 22% from the right, and 27% from the left. Demarcus Robinson, 24% from the slot, 25% from the right, and 51% from the left. So what that tells me is that Demarcus Robinson is almost certainly going to have the hardest, natural coverage. Like if you're going straight 1-to-1, Demarcus Robinson is going to have probably the hardest job of any of those receivers. But if you add into, what Baltimore is going to plan for, obviously, the plan is to do what you can to lessen the impact that both Watkins and Kelsey can have against you, right? So I think that we're going to see Robinson with the hardest one-on-one coverage. I think we're going to see Watkins and Kelsey, get the hardest looks from the defense as a whole. And I think that leaves McCole Hardman today in a really, really fantastic spot. I was on him last week and they wound up going to Robinson, and I totally understand, looking in retrospect, why that happened with the way the game played out and everything. But this week, given the fact that when they're running 3 wide, McCole does play so much from the slot, and Baltimore has been by far the weakest against that. I'm going to absolutely go there. Here, let me see. Here we have it. Okay, so Baltimore so far this season is the 11th best against the perimeter. They are, I believe that's 14th best against the left. They are 9th best against the right, but they are the 7th worst against the slot. So, again, what you want to look for is where Mahomes is going to be able to exploit, because if you've watched him, that's what he has been so fantastic at doing, is his on the field adaptation. You can watch, games from even when he started last year, where he would go Tyreek. The defense shifts their coverage to Tyreek. He goes Kelsey. And, as soon as they move like a weaker corner to someone, he sees it and he targets that player. So, I think that part of what Mahomes has that's so special is his ability to read the way the defense is playing his receivers and anticipate, the line of succession, so to speak. Like I would normally have Watkins first or Kelsey first and then Watkins and then Hardman and then, et cetera, et cetera. But he knows, like in situation B, this guy and this guy are going to be taken, so I need to go in this order, and in situation C. And he has all of that, already in his head. He knows who all the defenders are going to be. He knows where all the weaknesses are, where the gaps in coverage are, They scheme around it brilliantly because they have fantastic coaching. So I think that, especially, they always say that New England neutralizes the best threat against them. And I think that we need to start looking at the Chiefs as finding the weakest spot in their defense, in their corners and whatnot, and just beating the sweet living hell out of it, because that's what Mahomes has done. Again, if you go back and watch even from last year, whoever the weakest corner is, he finds who that person is on, and he goes nuts with it. On Baltimore, yes. So this is what I was going to do. Like I said, I was going to talk about my exposures. So as of right now, in terms of wide receivers, I basically max out. So let me back up a little bit here. So I'm playing 2 Millionaire Maker lineups today because there's two that I really like, 2 dudes I really want to get in there. But I'm playing a 20 lineup thing on other tournaments. So, I used my projections and I built, the 20 lineups, and I set some rules, right? So I want to let you know all of this first because it paints why my exposure might be where it is. And Zoe, it's going to answer your question 100%. I'm not avoiding your question. So basically, I have a quarterback is going to be paired with 2 people from his team because I'm trying to win, I'm trying to win a tournament here. I'm not trying to cash, do like simple cashing. A quarterback is going to be paired with 2 receivers from his team, either wide receiver or tight end, and 1 player from the other team, either running back, wide receiver, or tight end. So, for example, if the quarterback the projection site spits out is Lamar Jackson, it's going to give me Andrews, Marquise Brown, and, Travis Kelce as well. And that's the way the rules are. I also set a maximum players per team to 3 because, again, I don't want to go crazy here. I'd like to get, 3 versus 2 stacks, like 5-player stacks, but, I like to keep things a little less crazy in some ways and try to find differences with the way I do exposure. So to answer your question, as of right now, I have, because I do 20 lineups, I set my base exposure to 15% for wide receivers, which gives me at most 3 lineups out of the 20 with a wide receiver in it, right? There are some I bump down. I go manually through every one. I look at what ownership's going to be, and I move stuff around, but I set a baseline to 15%. And then if you are in an amazing matchup, or I really, really like you, I could bump you up to 20 or even 25%. So when I was talking before about running backs, the same applies. I have Carson at 25% for a good reason. I have Dalvin Cook at 25% and Burkhead at 25% for a very good reason. When it comes to I only have 3 wide receivers that I went over 15% on. I have Larry Fitzgerald at 25%. I love him today. Absolutely love him today. This air raid offense is no joke. I can see ways that he fails. Whenever you have, 6 catching ups for the entirety of a game, it's always possible that someone can disappear, even an elite guy. But what are you doing, JJ? Sorry, my cats are going nuts here. Or it's just JJ Watt. He's playing with a hair tie. Oh, yeah, he loves that. Sorry. Where was I? So I love the way Arizona looks today. Air raid for real. They don't care if they have the lead. They're just going to throw the hell out of the ball. I want to point out, especially on Yahoo, Kyler Murray is so underpriced on Yahoo. He's priced fine on DK and FanDuel. So underpriced on Yahoo. So I have Larry Fitzgerald at 25%. I have Marquise Brown at 20%. And Julio Jones at 20%. And that's it. Everyone else I have maxing out at 15% today. I love Julio Jones today against Indy. It just matches up really nicely. And Marquise Brown is going to be my second favorite wide receiver on the day. Mike D asks, Allen 4,000, Olsen 37, Aguilar 3,600 equals 11,300, allowing you to go ham in all other positions. Even picking two of those three will give you a lot of room. I agree with you, Mike D. And I should also point out Rex Burkhead's 3,900, I believe. Don't sleep on Rex Burkhead. Don't take a shitty defense today, because you want to fit in, some really expensive dudes. There's no reason for you to have to do that. There is so much fantastic value. You have Frank Gore for Buffalo at 4,400. Chris Carson with Rashad Penny out at 5,900 is absolutely insane. If Marlon Mack plays, 5,800, absolutely insane. You have, let's see here. I have all this. Yeah, Kyle Allen, who I'm going to be under the field on, but I'm still going to play him. I still like him a lot. 4,000 is ridiculous. Burkhead, 3,900 is absolutely insane. There are just some really, really cheap people. And I want to draw the attention to another cheap play that you might not consider. Tony Pollard, the backup running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is playing Miami. Let's not forget. They want Zeke to, do what he needs to do. And while, and I wrote about this, it's certainly possible, for Zeke to put up 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half against Miami. Hell, he could do it in the first quarter, given how bad Miami is, if he gets a couple good runs. But it's certainly possible that, like with every game that Miami's going to play this season, it's over by halftime. And that means that Tony Pollard, 3,800 on DraftKings? Tony Pollard is going to get a lot of run. And it's not like the Dolphins are going to get better at the end of the game and be able to stop him. The Cowboys are going to be on let's throw the ball duty. Are going to be on let's not throw the ball duty. Let's just run the clock down and let this kid get some work in. Don't risk injury like the Patriots I was talking about earlier. Don't risk injury on anyone that's going to be significant to you down the line. And when you have a rookie, let him get the work. And, to a degree, I think that, and let me get their prices too. Hold on. The two receivers for Dallas that are going to be backing up Cobb and Cooper. It's like Devin Smith and another dude that they just got in. That's why I can't remember his name or their pricing. Let's see here. Pardon me for the delay. Devin Smith and Cedric Wilson. If when this game blows out, why are they going to risk injury to Cobb and to Cobb and Cooper, especially with Gallup having just gotten out, right? What they don't need is their entire wide receiver core beset by injury. As good as Zeke is, they're still going to need to establish the pass, so to speak. I think that you're going to see, especially at the end of this game, Devin Smith and Cedric Wilson get the wide receiver action. I think Pollard is going to be the safest play, but if you're playing GPPs, man, you could do a lot worse than minimum price Cedric Wilson, or really Devin Smith for 3,400. Really, really sneaky today. Really, really sneaky today. All right, Wienik asks, Pats or Dallas or Buffalo? So I would say that the Pats are going to be my favorite. and Dallas is a really close second. That's how I have it set up. Pats, I have my exposure set to 50%. Dallas, I have it set to 30%. I just think that Falk gets his ass handed to him. If the Dolphins were playing Fitzpatrick, I would probably be higher on Dallas than New England. But as bad as he is, Rosen is still much, much better than Fitzpatrick. I know everything around him is terrible. Albert Wilson out isn't going to help. They just don't have anybody. But Rosen can scramble better. Rosen is just going to be better. So give me the Pats over Dallas. And I like Buffalo a lot. I really do. But Buccaneers, I wrote about them as well. The Buccaneers and the 49ers are my two favorite sneaky defenses that no one seems to be playing. The Buccaneers have looked really good this year, and I just do not have faith that Daniel Jones is going to come out gangbusters. When the Giants have legitimately three options that you have to worry about, Saquon Barkley, Ingram, and Shepard coming back from concussion, it makes the defense a lot easier, especially, with Cody Latimer out. Benny Fowler is hobbled as well. It's really bad. If your number two wide receiver is like Cody Core, you're in trouble if Daniel Jones is your quarterback. So, I really, really like Tampa Bay. And then the 49ers, man. So I wrote about this as well. So far on the season, the 49ers defense has been second best next to the Patriots. And the 49ers have not had the benefit of facing the Miami Dolphins. And the Football Outsiders, who I really, really love their stats, they have the 49ers ranked as the second best pass defense and the seventh best rush defense so far. But they also acknowledge how small the sample size is. Right? So what they have is a ranking for expected defense at the end of the year. Like, they take into account all of the future matchups and everything else. And they try to show you where, for example, right now, Tampa Bay is the number one ranked rush defense and the 14th ranked pass defense. So as of right now, Tampa Bay is ranked 4th overall in terms of best defense. If you go by the metrics and how, what they allow and everything else. So Tampa Bay, 4th best. But if you look at their expectations as far as the end of the season goes, they're projected to finish at 17th best. So things are going to take a dramatic turn against the Bucs at some point. I don't think it's going to be this week against the Giants, but just to show you, the Buccaneers are ranked well now, but they account for the future. So New England is ranked 1. No surprise. They're going to get 2 Jets. They're going to get 2 Dolphins. San Francisco is ranked number 2, and they're projected to finish at number 2. They are not a joke at all. And I think that we are doing ourselves a disservice by ignoring the fact that, Mason Rudolph is not that good. And again, when you have the 3 options, and I talked about this, if you read my article or both articles or however the hell you want to talk about it, I've been watching and paying attention to fantasy football for a very, very long time. And when you get a rookie quarterback or a shitty backup quarterback, when those dudes come in, what winds up happening is they have a safety valve or 2. Normally it's the tight end because they're in the short range, and then a running back that they dump off to, while occasionally going outside to a star wide receiver or trying, have them do a cut route or whatever the hell it is. But they try to scheme things to like one really good wide receiver, but otherwise rely very heavily on their safety valves. So I think that I don't think that there's a single backup or rookie quarterback that's starting today, with the exception of Kyler Murray, who's the starter. He's not just like a rookie. I don't think. Oh, and we're starting to get the. Okay, so Mark Andrews is officially active. Matt Lacoste and James Devlin are inactive. As expect, no word on Ryan Izzo, but he was badly hobbled. So again, boost to Rex Burkhead. He's going to be like the de facto tight end for the Patriots today. And again, he's a backup, so it's not like they're worried about running him into the ground. When the games matter, it's going to be Michelle and James White. So give me all the Burkhead today. So anyway, I think that the Steelers are going to rely on Connors and Vance and Juju, and they could try throwing the Dante Moncrief, but he has, as far as I've seen, and I might be wrong on this, but I believe that Dante Moncrief has given up as many interceptions by balls bouncing off of his hands than he's made receptions. Like, I think Dante Moncrief has given up like 3 interceptions off his hands, and he's had like 3 catches so far this year. Even if that is a slight exaggeration, just know that it is a slight exaggeration. Like, Moncrief looks terrible, and part of the reason I was higher on him in the preseason was because he finally had a legit quarterback throwing to him. Even with Big Ben throwing to him, he didn't do shit. So I have absolutely no hope that anyone past Juju, don't give me Ryan Switzer, don't give me any of those guys. I don't have faith that any of them are going to be able to do anything. And I think San Francisco is going really largely ignored as a defense. I think they are in line for interception, a pick 6 today, sacks by the truckload. It's going to be really nasty. So I think that Pats are 1, Dallas is 2. I don't think anyone's really in the same breath as them today. So it's not like I'm saying you need to fade them. If you're playing one lineup, don't play them. But if you're doing multiple lineups, and you're wondering about exposure, I would definitely have some exposure to Tampa Bay and San Francisco. I really, really like them. Mike D said Carson became super chalk with the news of Rashad Penny not expecting to play. Yes, I agree. I don't think it can be avoided. Give me Carson today. The game script, everything leads to me absolutely loving the hell out of Chris Carson. I don't think McDissick is a viable backup, and I think that even though I don't have faith, in the backups there that the Seahawks are going to be going against for sure. Whoever the hell gets most of the snaps, they say Bridgewater, but who knows? I'm sure they're going to work it both ways. So be careful if you play Bridgewater, be careful that he might not see 100% of the work. But I think that, at home, getting the lead, they're just going to have no problem letting Carson run the ball, and he's going to be able to break off a few nice runs, get a few nice catches. It's going to be a really, really nice game. Unruly Zoe asked, okay, Unruly Zoe, I have some requests for rapid fire. So I'm going to do the rapid fire really, really quick, and then I'm going to go to yours because that is going to be a more in-depth conversation. Tim, rapid fire, Evans or Godwin? Give me Godwin. Andrews or Kittle? Give me Andrews. Thielen or Galladay? Galladay, 100%. 100%. And that's going to tie directly into Zoe, and that's why I did it this way. Because I'm not going to – so if you read what I wrote, I think it is 100%. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. Given the way the defenses are, given the way they're, man, why is this so annoying? Sorry, I'm trying to scroll down things to get extra information to give you specific things. Okay, so for Minnesota and Oakland, right? Oakland has been relatively stout against the run and absolutely terrible against the pass. But they're going against a Minnesota team that will not throw the ball unless they're behind. So what you're going to have to ask yourself is, do you think Oakland has the lead in this game? And do you think that that lead is enough that it forces Minnesota to start passing? And I've pointed out several times the reason that Minnesota fired their offensive coordinator with I think it was 5 weeks to go last season. It might have been 3. I can't remember if it was 5 or 3. The reason they fired the OC with almost no weeks left is because they were upset at his resistance to moving more towards the pass. Now, they have severely overcorrected. As I've pointed out, if you look at the box score and everything, Kirk Cousins had 10 pass attempts in week 1 for 97 yards, but they didn't need to throw. In week 2, they were behind a lot, and even then, Dallas Goedert is active. He becomes a GPP play. Alshon Jeffrey inactive as expected. Marlon Mack active. Get him in there. He's way too cheap. LaShawn McCoy is active. Way too cheap. Both of those guys are fantastic. I apologize. Albert Wilson is indeed out as confirmed. Yeah, everything that I said so far holds up. Yeah, I love McCoy too. I don't sleep on McCoy. I don't think he's like a cash game play, but I think he's going to be sneaky. I'd rather have Gore, but man, him and Darwin Thompson have a good chance today of getting some work. And if Darwin Thompson can break one off where Williams and McCoy have not been able to, we might see a shifting. I'm not saying Damian Williams is going to get Wally pipped, but I'm saying, Darwin is great. And man, like he's really good. He was the number 1 running back last year in college in terms of how evasive he was. And if you look at the preseason games, I believe he was number 3 among all running backs in terms of how evasive he is as a runner. Patriots, Damian Harris and Brandon Bolden, backup running backs, are active. So, again, that just adds to the thinking that, Sony Michel may not get a huge workload, although them having both of those guys active, I'm sure one of them is going to be special teams. One of them is going to take, maybe if some fullback work from Devlin. I might, go down from 25% on Burkhead to 20%, but I'm still going to be very high on him and try to be slightly over the field. Oh, did I hit that? And now the light is annoying. I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying really hard here. Anyway, to get back to you, Zoe. So I think that Minnesota has shown who they are, right? Minnesota is going to throw it. They're going to throw it all the time, and they do not care. Hilton and Marlon Mack are both active. That is great. That gives the Atlanta-Indianapolis game a chance of shooting out. So, get some games stacking in there. Again, if you're playing multiple lineups, Atlanta-Indianapolis is prime with Mack and T.Y. Hilton. And Mack and Hilton, because they were on the injury report and have like the questionable tag next to them, are going to be dramatically under-owned for what they should be. Like if Mack and Hilton, let's say, for example, Mack and Hilton were on no injury report this week, they would be at 15%. Because they had the Q next to their name, they might be 8% owned. Like it's literally that stark a difference. I think that Dalvin Cook is going to be my favorite overall running back. I have him over Barkley. I have him over Zeke. I have him over Kamara. Dalvin Cook needs to be priced like those guys. On Yahoo, he is. On DraftKings and FanDuel, he isn't quite there yet. So I'm a huge fan of going big Dalvin Cook. I think that while I would normally like to go Josh Jacobs today, even though he's not on the injury report, the fact that he was so sick that he lost 10 pounds, normally that takes a few days to get over. So I'm going to be a little more cautious with him. I don't think you need to avoid him, but I'm going to be really cautious with him. And then I think the thing that you need to really worry about is the Xavier Rhodes treatment. He is good enough to shut down Julio Jones. So I don't think Tyrell Williams really has a chance. So I think that, what you're going to see is a lot more Waller and a lot more Hunter Renfrow in terms of who Derek Carr targets. I think that Minnesota is going to win this game, and they're not going to have to pass it very often. So I think that Dalvin Cook is the play for Minnesota. And I think that in terms of Oakland, while I don't really want to play Derek Carr, I think that Waller at tight end is amazing. He's going to get a ton of work, especially with Tyrell being shut down. And I think that Hunter Renfrow, who's established himself as the second wide receiver, is going to be a lot sneakier. Again, I'm not saying lock him into a single lineup. But I'm saying that if you play a bunch of lineups, don't ignore him. All right, Unruly Zoe, one lineup favorite stack, Detroit. Detroit, give me Stafford, give me Galladay, and then give me Hockenstein, Gronkinson, however you want to say it. I absolutely love them today. I think that there are a bunch. Shady dominates the carries. I think I would say it's probably going to be closer to like a 65-35. I think Darwin will get 35 and Shady will get 65. So Zoe, I think there's one last thing I want to add to the Minnesota-Oakland thing, and this is something I did write about. If you are playing, 50 lineups, I'm not saying, if you're playing 10 lineups to do this, because, again, there are so many options at quarterback that you really want to have the exposure and try to spread things around. But if you're playing, a lot of lineups, have one lineup at least that is Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs. I don't foresee it as a sure thing. I don't think it's going to happen. But again, Oakland has been steady enough against the run and so bad against the pass that Minnesota might just flip the game script for the game, and come out throwing the ball for once, especially I would surprise everybody, probably even Oakland, and it might be a good gameplay. So while I don't advise it, I don't think it's, a stone lock or anything like that. If you're playing a lot, having some GPP exposure in one lineup to those guys, I think is really, really good. Pardon me again. 50 minutes in, my throat's getting hurty. I haven't been doing a lot of talking lately because I don't leave my house because I'm handicapped. So let's see here. So I want to go more into the stacks question because there's about 10 minutes left in the video that I'm doing here. So get your questions in. If you have any questions, like I said, I don't mind talking about my projections. If you have any questions as to where I have people projected and why, or how two people project versus each other, I have no problem, doing a quick lookup for you in the last, 10 or so minutes here. But I do want to talk about the stacks. Mike D. Isn't that the question of the week? Lamar Jackson or Mahomes? Ooh. Man, I've had that problem all week. I really have. I think I'm going to say Lamar Jackson because I I would say that he's responsible for more of the offense's points. So if this game shoots out and all things are equal, he should do better than Mahomes because he'll get, the 100-yard, or excuse me, the 100-yard bonus point rushing, that Mahomes almost certainly won't get. And he also has the ability to get the 300-yard passing bonus and some touchdowns. So I think that Mahomes has a safer floor in cash, but I think that Jackson's the better play, and I would focus more on Jackson in tournaments. Plus, on top of that, and this is, Mahomes is supposed to be, the highest owned dude on the day. Jackson is second, but it's still, percentage points ahead. It's not like they're right neck and neck next to each other. So for that reason as well, give me, give me Jackson. Give me Jackson over Mahomes. Wienik asks, just out of curiosity, when you say you have my base exposure set to 15%, is that after I whittle down my player pool, or is that everyone and then I adjust the players that I am on? So what I like to do at first blush is when I put my projections in, I run without any rules. I want to see, I run like 150 lineups. I want to see, who it has at like 100%, who I like that gets ignored, and see if it's a question of, exposure to, certain players leaving others ignored, or if maybe if my projections are off, or if I was wrong, or, try to weigh out the reason why. So after I look at that, I get a better handle on where the ownership is going to be after. But then what I do is I set it straight to 15% for everybody, except for quarterbacks and except for defenses. Running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends go to 15%. Quarterbacks go to 10%. If I'm doing 20 lineups, and it's a week like this week, I want exposure to 10 different quarterbacks because, again, I'm not trying to get all 20 lineups, over the cash line. I'm trying to win the tournament, which means, branching out your exposure to other options. So, I have the 2 lineups with Mahomes. I have the 2 lineups with Jackson. I have, the 2 lineups with the people that you want to have 2 lineups of, but most everybody else gets 1 lineup with the stack on them. So quarterbacks are limited, and then defenses I set at, it's basically like my call on defenses, right? So I have, the Patriots and the Cowboys this week, like I said, set for 50 and 30% respectively. I wanted to give at least 20% to, the Buccaneers and the other, the 49ers and some of the other teams. So then I start to whittle it down. But generally speaking, I try to let the numbers do their own work, right? I have 1 lineup I make by hand where I can, move things around based on how I like it. And then I try to let the projection do the 20 because, I don't mind that every once in a while, it'll throw in, like a John Brown that I might not have had any exposure to, like a Tyler Eifert. There's different dudes. Like I might be focusing on Larry Fitzgerald, and it gives me a couple Kirks. I might like Garoppolo, but just because I have blinders on, and this is not relevant this week because I think it's going to be a rushing game for San Francisco, but it's just the name I was looking at on my screen. I could be, I could love Garoppolo and have the numbers back up, once you get, look at the salary and the value and everything. but I didn't think about it. So I like to let the numbers kind of speak for themselves. And then if I need to eliminate anybody, like so what I do then is I look at all of my under the field plays and over the field plays and adjust people up and down based on that. So, like I'll move the best, most elite options the week up to 25%, and I'll move like under the field to 5%, which will give me one lineup of them. So, for example, like I said, Josh Jacobs, I want to be under the field on him, so I have him set for one lineup. He's in one lineup, 5%. So that's basically how I do that. But great question, Weenek. I'm always happy to discuss lineup creation because that is a completely different monster than the analysis, right? Jimmy Graham officially active. Jake Kumaro is inactive, which really doesn't move many needles. He was like the WR4. Anyway, Mike D asks, Godwin or Galladay? I think it's Galladay because I think that game is more likely to be a shootout, and Philly really has been that bad against the pass. Tampa Bay, I think, has the chance to win this game pretty handily against the Giants. Like I said, their defense has been doing really, really well, and I just don't have a lot of faith in Daniel Jones with the limited pieces. So I think Galladay has the safer floor and the better ceiling today, given everything. So, don't get me wrong. Godwin's like one of my top 10 wide receivers this week, without exaggeration. I love him, absolutely love him. But, Galladay is one of my top 3 in all realistic, well, 4, because I have Jones, ignoring the like super elite dudes that you're going to play every day, every week. I have a ton of Galladay because again, the way Philly's been this year, no, they looked really bad defensively, especially against the pass. And this is a Lions team that only wants to throw, right? So give me Stafford throwing for 400 yards, 2-3 touchdowns today. Give me Galladay going for 150. I think it's a good chance today where, I think Godwin, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 100, but I'd be more surprised if he gets 150 and 2 touchdowns than I would be if Galladay does. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really good way of looking at it. When you're building your lineup for like a Millie Maker, right? For tournaments, if you're looking to win a tournament, every single player should have the upside to score like they are going to get 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. That means, taking a quarterback that can throw a lot and 2 options, if you're going with 2, that can each get a couple of touchdowns. Similarly, you want a running back that is going to be able to get, at least 150 yards rushing and receiving, with 2 touchdowns upside. And if you can get a lineup where everybody does that, and only if you get a lineup where everybody on average does that, that's how you're going to win the tournament. So that's how I try to build the lineup that I build by hand. I try to look at it and say, and the way I do with a hand lineup is 1. So it's I have Stafford and Galladay. Stafford's my guy, my one hand-built lineup. So yeah, that should answer that question. So I have about 50 seconds left. So barring any last-minute questions, I'm going to tell you my stacks, and my stack exposure is basically my quarterback exposure, right? Because that's why the hell does this keep happening? Hardman, Mike. I went into that at the beginning of the video. Hardman against Baltimore, you want the person that's going to run out of the slot the most. So with Watkins running out of the slot 69% of the time, Hardman running out of the slot like 59% of the time, Hardman is going to be the second best option there for Kansas City, especially with Watkins probably getting doubled the entirety of the game, right? So last thing I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to go over my stack exposure, which is basically my quarterback exposure. If this thing will ever load. Oh, that's good timing. My dog just started whining, meaning he needs to go out. And of course, Fantasy Cruncher is shitting the bed on me. There we go. That's what I get for having a very, very underpowered laptop when I'm trying to run like huge sheets of projections on two different sports. It's going to be, thank God basketball and baseball don't overlap, because my God, I'm going to have to start writing those previews too for NBA. I can't wait. Okay, here we go. Come on, why is it doing this? Okay, so I have, that's not right, is it? I thought I changed it. Did it reload? What the hell is going on? Sorry, folks, give me a second here. Something went awry, and I want to make sure that that is not incorrect. That is incorrect. Okay. So I have two lineups that are Detroit stack. I have two lineups that are Chief stacks, two lineups Baltimore stack, two lineups that are Cardinals stack, two lineups that are Falcon stack. I have one Pats stack, one Dallas stack, one Seattle stack, one 49ers stack, one Chargers stack, one Eagles stack, one Indianapolis stack, and one Carolina stack. Yeah, that's not right. That's not right. Because I have Deshaun Watson, I must be on a different thing. And I have one Houston stack. That's right. Okay. So that's it. That is everything. All right. So I'm going to go back to my YouTubes, see if there's any last minute questions. All right. Some dude is giving an ad on my channel. Thank you for the advertisement. Boop. All right. Oh, Sanders is great because I think Philly's going to need to do a lot of running. But again, they have the split between three dudes, right? So it's a lot tougher to trust any of the Philadelphia backs when they have three dudes, right? And on top of that, what is it? Jeez, he's like 41 yards away. Let me check. Everything hurts. My brain hurts so much. Sproles, I think, is 41 yards away. 41 all-purpose yards away from getting like fifth all-time on some list or something. Sproles is about to pass some dude on the all-purpose list. And he's like close enough that they'll probably try to get it for him today, especially against Detroit. So, yeah, I like Sanders a lot. He's my favorite of the running backs. All of them are priced so low, but it's because they're in a timeshare. So they're splitting it. So anyway, thank you all for joining me. I hope I got to, all of the information that you needed to get to. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I did a good job. It's the first time I've ever done an NFL talk. So it's fun. It was a lot of fun, but man. All right. Thank you all. Really. I really appreciate it. I love you all. Best of luck. Let someone win that $1 million today. All right. Even if it's not me, it's one of you, right? Let's do it.